Welcome to Walking by Faith, a podcast from Torch Trust where we talk to blind and partially sighted people about how their lived experience of being visually impaired has impacted their faith and spiritual lives. I'm your host, Lynn Davis.
My name is Chich Hewitt. The Chich is an unusual part of my third Christian name, Chichily, and that's the bit that stuck. Came originally from South Africa. My wife Jill and I were born there, grew up there, and I worked there on the railways for a bit, having done a science degree, and then was ordained in 1978-79 and had ministry in the Anglican Church in South Africa. Came here with Jill for what we thought was a couple of years, and we've landed up staying. We've got two daughters they followed, so we have been here since 2000, and I've worked in two parishes. So that's the kind of resume.
Of course, like all the other people we are interviewing here, you lost your sight. So when and how did that happen?
Well, just coming back into the timeline, as I say, we came here in 2000 and I retired in 2014. In 2009, I thought it would be a good moment to have a different work experience, so change from one parish to another, from Radcliffe in the Berry area of North Manchester to Swinton. And at that moment of change, I lost eyesight, first in one eye and then in the other. And so for a few months, I could see out of one eye, and then it deteriorated very rapidly. And it's a rare condition called Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. And people usually get it when they're younger. I was older when I got it, which confused the doctors for a while, but then they got onto it and it was proven. And this particular condition, the onset is rapid and then it tends to plateau. It's not degenerative. So for the last 15 years, I've had no center vision. I have got peripheral vision, rather like people have with macular degeneration, I think. And it's a bit hazy, so I can't read, but I can see outlines and shapes and, a little bit of countryside, so that's a benefit. But obviously I can't drive and can't read music, which is a frustration that I used to be able to do. But other than that, I use technology.
And when and how did you become a Christian?
I, I would say I've been a Christian all my life because I grew up within a Christian family. My grandfather was actually an ordained minister as well. And so it's been just a steady growth. There wasn't a time when I didn't go to church and didn't believe in Jesus. And the faith grew. I was at a private church school in South Africa that's like a private school here with chapel, chaplain, and so on. And so there was chapel worship, which I always enjoyed. And towards the end of my high school career, I felt a calling to full-time ministry. So I felt that the Lord at that stage was calling me. So it was a deepening journey rather than one instant moment. I can look back to a time, would have been about 1973, when I had powerful experience of the Holy Spirit, what some used to call the baptism of the Spirit, when hands laid on me and received a gift of tongues at that stage, and that was about a long time ago, 50 years ago. So I had that particular experience, but it was a growing faith rather than an instant conversion.
Has your faith had any impact on your sight loss and your current lived experience as somebody who is visually impaired?
I believe it has. I think there were two aspects to that sight loss. First of all, I considered myself quite fortunate when I learned that this condition usually afflicts people between the ages of 18 and 30. It's usually women pass this condition on, men tend to get it. And so rather than get it at that young age, I got it when I was 63. So I considered it a great benefit that I had those extra 30, 40 years, whatever it was, with normal vision when it could have gone a whole lot earlier. That was the one thing. The other thing with regard to faith was that by coincidence, or maybe it was God's incident, I was in the process of transition from one parish to another when my eyesight went. Some people in my first parish thought I was leaving because my eyesight was going, but it was not that at all. And I found myself being accepted by the new parish with normal eyesight in one eye, and a month or so later, not having eyesight. And I had to determine how I was going to conduct ministry without eyesight in a new parish. And that was so all consuming that for me, I wasn't concerned with, I suppose, the kind of depression that some people have felt or the kind of loss, because there was so much change going on. I just had to get on and deal with stuff and try and learn how to take services and conduct worship in a new parish with almost no vision. So I think that faith came into play there quite a lot and helped me, where some people might have struggled more.
How has being visually impaired impacted your experience of church?
It's an interesting question, and being involved in this with the Sight Loss Friendly Church program and sharing on that. The easier bit in some way has been taking a service, because I have to prepare quite meticulously for that, and my wife Jill has helped me a lot in that. I take or start a service well prepared in how I'm going to take it. So in a way, I'm in charge of that situation, and that's the easier bit. The harder bit comes afterwards. I suppose sometimes before, but particularly afterwards at refreshment time, when I don't know who's who and who's where. And that interaction with people is difficult. If I approach a table where people are sitting around, I can't easily work out whether I'm intruding on a private conversation or whether it's okay just to join in, because I can't pick up that body language and that sense of the conversation that's going on there. You know, the usual kind of things which people struggle with when they can't see at a refreshment time afterwards. That's the more difficult bit.
Who has supported you through your faith journey? I guess, especially around losing your sight, but maybe somebody who's been there with you throughout your life as well.
Lots of people have helped, but most particularly my wife Jill. When I lost eyesight, and she was a GP in practice at that time, she took some time off, and we looked around to explore, because once the diagnosis had been given, it was a case of what do you do now? And through a contact with the local library in Whitefield, we suddenly realized that there was equipment around to help, and the link started to be made with the local organization, in our case, Henshaw's, but also with access to work, part of the Department of Work and Pensions, and suddenly found that they would provide equipment for my work. They were less cash strapped at that particular time. And so I was assessed, and people came to see what equipment would be useful to me in my work, provided the equipment for me, and it was expensive stuff, and also trained me in how to use it. So there was this wonderful resource around, which was quite fantastic. And but Jill has been particularly helpful, and continues to be helpful as I prepare for service through the technology which I use. For instance, when I take a service, Jill records the spoken bits that I would normally read, and then I use a hearing device, or rather earphones from this device, and as I hear what she's recorded, those are the words I say because I don't do Braille, and that generally works for me.
How has your unique lived experience impacted on how you see God and God's love?
I haven't felt at any stage that God didn't love me because I lost eyesight. I just felt that God's love has surrounded me in so many different ways through so many different people that I can continue that journey of faith and experience, I think, the love of God in so many ways. I suppose I've been fortunate in growing up in a loving family and having loving and caring people around in the wider family I have at the moment. So I've been more fortunate in that sense and being able to experience God's love, sometimes directly and often through other people.
What does walking by faith mean to you?
Interesting one that there's that text in 2 Corinthians which says that we walk by faith and not by sight. Two things strike me there, because when you link that with near the end of John's Gospel, where Thomas said he won't believe until he sees Jesus, and Jesus gives him that opportunity. And Thomas says, "My Lord and my God." And Thomas says, "Well, you're blessed because you see me, but more blessed are those who have not seen and still believe." So I think, walking by faith and not by sight is most Christians' experience, because very few have an experience of having seen Jesus, so to speak, although they know and feel his presence in the power of the Spirit. So that's the Christian's life all around, really, that you walk by faith, without not by sight, without seeing Jesus, in the way that his disciples with him saw him. But there's another aspect to it as well, because if you lose eyesight, then walking by faith and not by sight has another meaning. You've got to prepare what you're going to do if you go on a journey or trip somewhere. You've got to plan it and prepare for it, and then pray hard that it's all going to work out for you, because things are different in terms of traveling and moving around when you can't see. And so there's a faith aspect. You set out on that journey, pray hard, and hope that it all works out.
Thank you. And finally, do you have a wellness tip for our listeners? This could be something that has helped you in your faith journey, maybe a way that you connect with God, anything that they might find helpful that you found helpful.
I think be prepared for the encounter with God sometimes. I had one direct experience at the end of my first parish. When I was at the end of a service, I suddenly had a picture of the college where I had trained and a picture of the town where I was. And I felt God saying at that moment, "I have something new for you." And within a couple of days, I had an offer to go back and teach at the college where I trained. And it was one very direct sign from God. So be prepared for those things, because they can sometimes happen. You can't make them happen, but just enjoy them and respond to them when they do happen. And with regard to other devices, the apps which I use are brilliant. Seeing AI, that free app which allows me to hover my phone over a document and have it read to me, is absolutely brilliant. And having an app which allows me to sit and hear a morning devotion is wonderful. It's quite funny, actually. Within the Church of England structure, ministers are expected to say a morning and evening prayer, and there's a set wording and all that. And when I heard the artificial voice, the simulated voice, reading this material to me from the app on my phone, there is a red diamond separator in the middle of each verse of a psalm. And I would have to listen to the simulated voice saying something like, "The Lord is my shepherd, red diamond card suit, therefore can I lack nothing." I couldn't get
Yes,
rid of this. So
that's right.
suddenly, and suddenly to find that if I tapped on a particular spot, the service is read to me and sung to me, and I can sit and listen to it. You don't have to be blind for that. People can listen to that while they're driving or going about other tasks. So that app in daily office has been spectacular. Those are apps which have helped me. And a recent book which I'm reading, which is wonderful, called Saving Us by Catherine Hayhoe. She's a climate expert, United States citizen, and so she's deeply concerned about climate issues, but as a practicing Christian. And the book is about how to share these issues of great concern in life now as a Christian is a book which I'm near the end of and enjoying.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Walking by Faith. If you'd like to get in touch about anything you've heard on the podcast, or if you'd like to leave any comments or feedback, you may do so by phoning 01858 438 260 or by emailing info@torchtrust.org. We'll be back soon, but until then, from me, Lynn Davis, goodbye for now, and thanks for listening.